Welcome to another edition of Office Hours with State Representative John Hampton. I'm John Hampton and delighted to welcome you to a special episode with our guest, Commissioner Sean Connolly, Commissioner of Connecticut's Department of Veterans Affairs. He has been there in this position for almost 2 years, a staunch advocate for Connecticut veterans. And welcome to the show, Commissioner.
Thank you,
Welcome
Representative.
back to Simsbury. I know you've been a frequent visitor, and we're always thrilled when you're here. I think the last time officially you were here was the dedication of our new, beautiful Veterans Memorial. That was
Absolutely.
a year ago, November.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, you were here prior to that for our Veterans Medal Ceremony, which was terrific. So we're happy to have you back.
Well, thank you, and great to be back, and appreciate, of course, all the great work that you're doing, Representative Hampton, for our veterans out this
Absolutely.
way. It was a tremendous ceremony that we had
Beautiful.
here. You've got a superb group of veterans, and of course the memorial is amazing, and was really appreciative to be part of that. It really shows the dedication of the citizens out here in Simsbury, the collaboration and partnership, which I've found to be so important in serving our veterans, serving those who have served. So congratulations on that.
And thank you and congratulations to the American Legion and the VFW here in Simsbury. And I'll do a commercial for them because they're still fundraising for bricks. And I know we were talking about I need to buy a brick for my my grandfather who flew in World War I. And it's great to see people purchasing the bricks, and it has become such a really natural part of our community, a place of reflection
Absolutely.
and dedication to our nation's veterans. Now, I cannot believe you've been it's 2.5 years as Commissioner?
Coming up on 2.5 years. It was March of 2015. So yes, time is flying. It's been crazy to think about how quickly time has gone, but it's been an amazing experience for me, quite an honor and privilege to be able to serve our veterans. And as you know, we have over 200,000 veterans here in Connecticut of all eras, going back to World War II, and we were just talking about one of your World War II veterans, and on up to present, the veterans who most recently served, of course, in Iraq and Afghanistan, and throughout the Cold War prior to that. So to be able to get out around the state that I grew up in, and to visit many parts that I hadn't had a chance to even visit, having grown up here, and meet these amazing folks has been a great thrill for me, and really inspires me to continue to work each and every day.
Now, did you ever think you'd be Commissioner?
I didn't. I didn't.
Something you dreamed about as a child?
No, I didn't. I probably didn't even know the Commissioner existed back when I was a kid, but it kind of evolved. It developed. I've always been involved in service.
You're a veteran yourself?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. It's my honor. And
how did you serve? In what capacity?
I served in active duty Army,
Okay.
and I currently continue to serve in the Army Reserve. I was entered into the Army ROTC program when I was at Bryant College, and now Bryant University in Rhode Island. Was commissioned as a second lieutenant in 1996. Took an educational delay to go to law school, went to law school, and then after law school went on to active duty for over 7 years, and served at Fort Campbell, Kentucky with the 101st Airborne Division Air Assault. Served in Kuwait and Iraq with the 101st, and then came back and served in the Pentagon and the D.C. area to finish out my active duty time.
Wow, wonderful. And then you were in the corporate world for a while, correct?
I was, yes. I left when I left active duty. I did go right into the Army Reserve, but I also went into an international law firm first in Washington, D.C., Greenberg Traurig, for about 3 years. And then I had the opportunity to come back home to Connecticut and join Pratt & Whitney.
Yes.
Where actually my grandparents, who came from Ireland years and years ago, worked in the beginning of the 1940s. So it was pretty neat to join that company. Of course, they had the military engines division, so
Sure.
Not too far from what I was doing in supporting that effort, and then became their global ethics and compliance officer prior to becoming the Commissioner of Veterans Affairs.
Now, you're still on duty, on reserve, correct?
Yes.
So you were telling me earlier that you just got you finished at the War College, correct?
That's right.
Tell me about that.
Sure. It's at various levels, various points in your career in the military, there's military education, and this was the next level of professional military education. We call it PME in the Army. was the U.S. Army War College, and it does equate to a master's degree in strategic studies. And I did it through the distance program, so it was a little over 2-year program. I began in the summer of 2015. We go down to the school at the Carlisle Barracks, Pennsylvania for a couple of rotations, but a lot of the work is done distance. Reading, writing, communicating with seminar classmates online in forums. But really interesting stuff, really designed to make us, lieutenant colonels and colonels, ready for strategic level, to be strategic level advisors to 1, 2, 3, 4-star generals, and then to eventually, if it comes to fruition, that you get into those positions, preparing you for those things as well. Critical thinking, strategic thinking, looking at these larger issues, looking at national security from a standpoint of how is national security affected by a number of different things. It could be an aging population in China. It could be mega cities and what effect that would have on our national security. And of course, there's the military engagement pieces as well, the South China Sea. So really interesting, get you thinking in a different frame of reference. I can incorporate some of what I learned and picked up at the Department of Veterans Affairs and in life generally. So really important. I will tell you, and mentioning earlier, it was a huge sacrifice, particularly for my
Sure.
wife and my boys, who gave up a lot of my time so I could concentrate on getting that done. And so we were all relieved at graduation.
Now, is the War College like the equivalent of the Naval Academy, if on the Army side, or
so it's the Navy has a Naval War College as well.
Oh, it does.
So it's equivalent.
Separate.
The Naval War College is in Newport, Rhode Island.
Okay.
There's the Naval War College, the Army War College. There's the Air Force. They call it the Air War College. And then there's also the National War College in Washington, D.C. So,
okay.
And then the West Point, the U.S. Military Academy, would equate to the Naval Academy.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And it frees up some time in your schedule, which is so full. And I know you've accomplished so much as commissioner in such a short period of time. What was the biggest surprise when you arrived as commissioner, and what were the kind of immediate things that you wanted to address, your priorities?
Sure. As you know, our agency, the legislature's Program Review and Investigations Committee was reviewing our agency and came up with some recommendations on how we could move forward. And so that report came out just prior to my arrival, and of course I digested the report, and there were some good recommendations in there. And one of the areas that we really had to focus in on was our transitional housing facility, the residential program. As you know, we have 4 core functions: the residential program for transitional housing, our long-term care chronic disease hospital, our Office of Advocacy and Assistance around the state helping our veterans in the communities, and then our cemeteries and memorials. And our residential program, we just needed to put some focus on it, some new energy, jolt the system, and really modernize. And we've been focused on that for the last 2 years, and I'm proud of the progress that we've made. We have done quite a number of things, despite having a smaller budget than even when I started. We've partnered with providers like Chrysalis, a nonprofit that provides case support management for our veteran residents. We've partnered with the Workplace out of Bridgeport for the labor employment piece, bringing their platform to employment program directly to our veterans on campus, as well as inviting veterans from the community to come participate in that program. We're working with the Connecticut Veterans Legal Center. And so really bringing these resources to bear, not spending a lot of appropriated funds, doing it through partnerships and donations and different ways of implementing it. But to get our veterans who are there to, one, identify their goals and objectives that they have for their best life, and they're going to be different for everybody. And then bringing these resources to bear to help them remove any barriers from achieving those goals and objectives. And so trying to help our veterans achieve those objectives. Now, something that the report pointed out were a number of our veterans had stayed there for a number of years, some 10, 20, even 30 years. And as I mentioned, it's meant to be a transitional facility, not a permanent housing facility. And so helping those veterans see that there are other options out there, through those resources. We also modified the program fee, which was in place going back to 2008. At that time, it was, a veteran could come to the facility, have 3 months of no cost at all, and then after 3 months, a $200 program fee per month. And so we modernized that we added a 4th month of no cost, so veterans coming would have an additional month of no cost, but after that, an income-based approach based on a 30% of income. And so all that together, the resources, the modernization of the program fee, has really provided that jolt, and has veterans thinking about long-term permanent housing, even some purchasing property. And so I'm really excited about that, seeing that come to fruition and seeing that become successful. And then what it does is our census is lower, and that allows us to concentrate our resources on those who could use more resources, and so that we can continue to push through. Ultimately, I'd like to get to a point where we're bringing in those younger veterans, post 9/11 veterans, who could benefit by some of the resources that we have there at the campus.
Now, you had a major achievement in terms of addressing homelessness with veterans. Do you want to talk about that in Connecticut,
Sure.
which was a major issue, as we all know, of homeless vets? It's a major issue nationally, but
Sure.
Connecticut has made a real mark on that.
Sure, and much of that success I want to congratulate, and it goes to Commissioner Yvonne Klein from the Department of Housing.
Sure.
They were huge leaders in that
Yep.
effort well before I got to the Department of Veterans Affairs. But from my place, where I see the success coming from is, well, their leadership from the Department of Housing, but then everyone coming together. It's that collaboration and partnership. It's the Department of Housing. It's our Department of Veterans Affairs. It's the Federal Department of Veterans Affairs. It's nonprofits, grant per diem providers. Everyone who has a piece in serving our veterans here in Connecticut, coming together to measure our veterans who are out there and homeless, and then finding ways to bring that number down, and so that you could see the progress. It was August of 2015 where the governor announced the end of chronic homelessness among veterans, and then several months later in February of 2016 where he was able to announce the functional end of homelessness among veterans in Connecticut. And as he points out, and as I point out when I speak about this or I'm asked about this, it doesn't mean that we won't find a veteran who's homeless.
Sure.
So it's really that the process is in place, and so that if citizens of Simsbury know of a veteran who is homeless or in danger of becoming homeless,
Sure.
they can get into this system and get that veteran on the way to a path to home, permanent housing.
That's wonderful, because it's so easy for anyone to fall into that situation, but it's especially poignant for when our veterans end up there. So thank you for that great accomplishment. What was kind of the most daunting to you when you took on the role? So much, probably, but did you feel ready for the task, or were you overwhelmed? Or
Well, I felt ready for the task. I mean, anytime. I mean, it's a leadership challenge. You know, obviously, I didn't know everything about the agency. I didn't know everything about the team at the agency, and so there was a steep learning curve. But I mean, I jump right in and try to learn as much as I can, as quickly as I can, and rely on those who had been there before me, and to provide good, research background and advice. The transition, the residential program was probably the most daunting, if that's the right term, but because it required a lot of change. It required culture shifts, among our veteran residents, as well as among the staff, and how we can become better, how we can modernize. The team's great. It was just me pushing a little harder on doing things a little different, and so I'm really pleased with what the team has done. In fact, Maria Cini is the longtime director of that program, the residential program. And she responded so well with a smile anytime I gave another challenge, and in fact we put her in for the one of the managerial service awards for 2017, and I'm happy and proud to say she was selected for that award. And so
that's wonderful.
It's a testament to not only to her work, but to her team's work, and to the success that the changes are having in that program.
Now, is there a coalition of other veterans commissioners in the country? Do you get together there's a society, obviously, of legislatures.
Yes.
Is there a similar one to commissioners that you all share information?
Absolutely. It's called the National Association for State Directors of Veterans Affairs.
Okay.
NASDVA.
That must be helpful.
It is. And, they get together twice a year. Usually one meeting is in the wintertime, February, March timeframe in Washington, D.C. area, and then in the summer it's in a different location. Given our budget, I didn't feel that it was appropriate to go on the summer trips to those locations, but I could easily get down to D.C. and drive down there. So I've met with many of my peers in that organization, particularly the ones in the Northeast region. And we stay in touch by email and by phone. And so when there is a question, when there is an issue that comes up that one of our states is having, if we need to bounce it off, others who may have experienced it or who already have it down pat, we can do that. And so, yes, absolutely, it's a great way to collaborate. Another way that we collaborate now here in the state is through our own veteran service organizations. And so once a quarter, we get together at our campus in Rocky Hill, all the state leaders, American Legion, VFW, Military Order, the Purple Heart, AMVETS, the whole list. And we come together and put an agenda together and talk about what issues are happening, what events are coming up, what happened in the past. And so we can try to become more online, as kind of one team and moving veteran issues forward. And that's been really helpful to me because a lot of those leaders have historical knowledge, great experience, field experience where they're touching veterans each and every day. And so I really appreciate their leadership. And I appreciate that collaboration because I wherever I go, I talk about it. We can't do it alone. And it really takes that partnership and collaboration to meet our mission, which is serving those who served.
Now, are there states that you look at and say, wow, California or Colorado is doing X, Y, Z. We really want to do that here. Are there really kind of leaders out there that are good? I mean, Connecticut's great, obviously, but are there folks that are kind of going to the next level in terms of 21st century veteran services?
There are, particularly some of the larger states, you look at the number of what we call veteran service officers. Now, we have veteran service officers, 1 or 2 in each of the congressional districts. You look at Texas and California and Florida, and they have many, many more veterans than we do, but the number of veteran service officers they have is huge. And if resources were such that we could bump up the number of veteran service officers, that would be something I think that we could touch a lot more veterans. We could help more veterans, who have not thought about going to the federal VA, file for a claim, and potentially get that compensation that they've earned and deserved for service-connected injuries and disabilities, those kinds of things, or to counsel them on, the numerous benefits that are available here in Connecticut, like the tuition waiver at state colleges and universities for veterans, like the retired pay now that the legislature passed for 100% military retired. 100% tax-free military retired pay. So I, from that front, some states are doing things a lot different. A lot of states are not in the business of the program that I just talked about, the residential program and services. They like us, they have the long-term care hospitals, but a lot of them are not in that residential program anymore. And so, we're looking. That's one of the things we've done is make it more modern, but looking at why they're not in it. And if there's an alternative that would make sense to that.
Well, Connecticut is clearly the best. I'm sure an example for others. But as you know, and we've discussed, we're obviously in a fiscal crisis, and certainly the area of Veterans Affairs personally, and as a legislator, is an area that I do not want us to skimp on in terms of cuts, especially to the programs that you've talked about, veterans burials, things like that. I mean, it's just kind of for me, a no-fly zone, so to speak, in terms of we really need to be vigilant and stand with you and our veterans because, we can't do enough, in my estimation. Talk to me a little bit about one of the programs that I'm sure one of the issues you're addressing is substance abuse, drug abuse. Is that still a major problem? Is it how are you addressing that with veterans or?
Mm-hmm. So certainly substance abuse is a challenge, is an issue for our veterans here in Connecticut and across the nation.
Sure.
It's being addressed by the federal VA, particularly opioid use, which can lead to a number of different consequences. What we do at the campus, we do partner with our sister agency, the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services.
Sure.
So for those residents, and they can come from the community now as well, we have the fellowship house called the Veterans Recovery Center on our campus. Working with DMIS, the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, they've modified and modernized that program as well. So it's not a live-in long-term program. It's a follow-up, really. So our veterans who have substance abuse challenges generally would get a treatment at, for example, the Federal VA Hospital in West Haven. And then if they come to our campus to stay with us, this program with DMIS helps to, it's support afterwards so that they can maintain, their sobriety. So that's what we're doing on the campus, and we do stay in close touch with the federal VA.
Sure.
We meet, with the leadership from the VHA side, the healthcare side, almost on a monthly basis. They often refer veterans to our campus if it's for the residential program or for the long-term care chronic disease hospital. And so, working with our veteran service officers that work for us in the communities, working with the federal VA, we'll get veterans referred to the treatment programs that they need.
Is there a different dynamic with the younger veteran, the 25-year-old coming home versus, a World War II veteran or Vietnam veteran? Are you finding a different dynamic? I ask that because some of our local veterans groups notice that the younger vets don't get involved with American Legion or VFW as much, maybe locally. I don't know if it's a statewide issue, but are you noticing maybe more privacy among the new veterans, or sometimes maybe they're more prideful about getting support and help from your department or agency? Are there differences in generational or?
There may be. It's because if you look back to, of course, the Vietnam era veterans,
totally different.
We didn't wrap our arms around them when they came home like we should have, and we're trying to make up for it now. But I think on balance, they probably weren't going to the federal VA in large numbers, or even joining some of the veteran service organizations at first. So there's probably a variety of factors. Younger veterans are getting into life, getting families and working, and so those things may slow down participation in some of the veteran service organizations. The other thing is, and I'm not 25, but I still consider myself one of the younger veterans.
Sure.
The other thing is, younger veterans are looking for something, I think, a little different in a service organization. They want to do. They want to do something, a program that will help, and the veteran service organizations certainly do that. But as far as a local post, they want to get together, get their arms around an issue, and help and serve. And so I'm actually I do ruck marching every now and then, and so there's a younger crew of veterans that I'll do a ruck march with.
What's a ruck march?
Sorry, it's wearing your rucksack and going out for a walk, basically.
Sure.
So the Marine Corps League out of Glastonbury recently did a huge ruck march, road march like that, and it was you could see the number of younger veterans who participated in it, raising money for good causes, like potentially those experiencing substance abuse challenges, those experiencing PTS challenges. And so there are crews out there that really want to get together. The post out in New Haven, the VFW post, is an amazing example of younger veterans coming together to rebuild the post, really. I was at their initial installation banquet, it's more than a year ago now, and they had about 50 veterans come together to reinvigorate the New Haven post, and out of the 50, I think all but 2 or 3 were post 9/11 veterans. So there are crews out there. I think everyone's looking for something a little different in the organizations that they're going to participate in. So time's an issue. Do they have the time? And then 2, if they have the time, they want it to be a meaningful use of that time to serve other veterans and to serve their communities.
Now, tell me about the stand down that's coming up. And I think stand down comes from the Vietnam War, or is it an older term? Tell me what a stand down is in military parlance and what it means now.
Yeah, sure. So stand down means kind of just that. Everything stops. You stand down everything else you're doing and focus on one particular issue. It could have been, in the corporate world uses it now as well. But if there's a safety issue, a compliance issue in the military, if you're focusing on the soldiers, the stand down term that we use it for is to stop everything for one day, to focus all of our resources, all of our providers in one place on one day for our veterans. And so we've been doing it for over 20 years now at our campus in Rocky Hill. It's going to be September 22nd, so we're looking forward to that. Last year we had over 900 veterans come through from all across the state. Department of Transportation's involved in buses veterans into the campus from all over the state. We have over 90 providers that come, including 20 state agencies that come and are there to support our veterans in some way.
So it's one-stop shopping for dental care, maybe?
Absolutely.
Mental health? What else?
The DMV comes, and so if you have an issue with your license and
Sure.
you owe back fees, we have funds there that could pay for to take
Great.
it there. Probate judge comes. Department of Revenue Services comes to talk about taxes, and then by the way, we have supporters like Quinnipiac Law School there to help with
Legal
those
matters.
tax issues.
Yeah.
Connecticut Bar Association participates. Yale comes in with nursing students and nurses. So all medical, haircuts. DSS, Department of Social Services, DMIS, Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, all the veteran service organizations are involved. Reason to Ride comes in and provides goods that veterans may need, whether it be sweatshirts and those kinds of things. So anything you can really think of, veterans should be able to find there that day. It's amazing the energy that's there in the quad there on our campus. The number of people you fit in there, the number of tents, and the number of veterans coming through, it's quite a thrill to be there and feel that energy.
So it's something our folks at home who are veterans can attend for free, and you want us to promote that? And
Absolutely,
get the word out
please do. Yeah,
yeah.
And you can. We're on social media at CT Veterans Affairs for Facebook, CT
Great.
Veterans Affairs. We're of course on our website at ct.gov/CTVA.
Great.
So it's out there. Google us, Connecticut Department of Veterans Affairs, and get the information on stand-down coming up on September 22nd. We do, as I mentioned, have Department of Transportation, so buses out there in certain locations that will pick up veterans, and of course, veterans can get themselves there as well. We have parking for private vehicles.
Well, Commissioner, thank you so much. I can't believe we're out of time. I really appreciate you visiting with me and spending time and talking about all your great accomplishments on behalf of 200,000 veterans in Connecticut.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Incredible. And keep us informed. Let us know what we can do for you. Count on my support, certainly, in the legislature, and always feel free to come back to Simsbury. We're always happy to have you. So thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us on this episode of Office Hours with State Representative John Hampton. We'll see you next time.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.